Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Chrysler's Combos. If you are new here, this is a place where I talk with just everyday folks, from authors to coaches to doctors, about their experience, their health journey, and how they've used functional medicine along the way. So today I am joined by Allison. Thank you so much for joining me today, Allison.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I am excited for everyone to hear about your health journey. For those of you that have never been here before or never seen an episode, this is just real life folks who are going to share. So, Allison, before we get to your health journey, tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Okay. All right. So I'm Allison Winsrich. I'm in Texas and I have two kiddos. They're 9 and 12 right now. And, practiced as a physician assistant for a while. And now starting in 2018, I left the clinic and started my own online health coaching practice. And then got more trained in functional medicine during that time. So I'm able to really kind of dive in with people and figure out what's going on, root cause of what their symptoms are. And it really relates, like I'll get into my health journey eventually, but it relates back to my own personal journey of how I got into that and the progression there. But I've been in Texas since I was 2. Did some schooling around Austin and Houston, did my undergrad in Austin and PA school in Houston, and came back to this area where I grew up in. So my whole family's here. And so, yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. And, when we first met, it's been a few months now, but when we first met, I was really drawn to hearing about your story, about your journey and how you came to even know about functional medicine and all of that. And I know that everyone out there is really going to benefit from hearing that. So let's start with why you chose to become a health coach specifically.
Mm-hmm. So, when I was practicing as a PA, I was working in oncology and really enjoyed that. I really felt like that was where I was supposed to be with my cancer history and all that. But I saw a lot of deficits there. They're really focused on your treatment and then your follow-up, which really kind of includes like scans and labs and things like that. But there's not a lot of things that go into what the actual patient can do. So you feel very disempowered when you have a diagnosis of any kind, especially when you're not given options of things that you can do. When you're told it just happened, there's nothing you can do. You just have to do this treatment. You feel like, well, why did this happen? Number one, and what can I do about it? So I saw a huge need, especially when people were coming out of cancer treatment. They were kind of like deer in headlights, like, what do I do now? What can I do to help either reduce the recurrence or, reduce my risk of something else going on, especially when your body's so depleted after all that treatment. And so that's kind of what led me. And, my undergrad is in nutrition, but it wasn't geared towards nutrition. Can be a whole gamut of different things. It's not all the same. It was more geared towards like working in a hospital or a school system. It wasn't geared towards like, human nutrition. Right. And so that's kind of really what started my pursuit into how can I help people? How can I support people outside of, just X, Y, and Z medication diagnosis, right? Because there is a lot we can do. There's a lot of lifestyle changes that we can make. There's a lot of diet changes we can make. And all of that, when you look at things online, it's all confusing.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I wanted to be able to help people kind of fill those gaps that, nothing against the medical professionals. They're just trained a certain way, right? when I went to PA school, we were trained on how to do an exam, how to diagnose, and what treatment went with that. And a
Mhm.
lot of the treatment was pharmaceuticals, right? We didn't get trained on nutrition or lifestyle or anything else, really. It was more just make a diagnosis quickly because that's what has to happen in the real world, unfortunately. And what do you do, right?
Yeah.
And so it's no fault to them, but it's just that's where I felt like, okay, I want to learn more about this. How can I support people? And so that's really what kind of got my wheels turning in
Mhm.
regards to what are some other avenues I can do outside of the clinic, and then even potentially helping me be home and work from home and have the flexibility so I can take care of myself, number one, and my family. But still help people, right?
Yeah.
So that's really what got me started in all that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely something we have in common. Our kids, interestingly enough, are close to the same age. And so, I remember having that conversation with you at the very beginning when we were both talking about, valuing family, valuing that time, our kids being young, but we still want to serve others. We still want to be able to be active in the healthcare community and really provide, how you said, fill in the gaps for folks that are in need. And so it sounds like for you, health coaching has really provided that opportunity to both serve in the community where you see that need, but also be available for your children a little more and things like that. So it's great when you can find something that aligns with your values so well.
Mhm.
Um, so let's turn our attention to your personal health journey. So tell everybody a little bit about, what happened with you as a young woman, and your cancer diagnosis and things like that. What was going on?
Yeah, so I was in college. I was going to UT, getting my undergrad there, and it was probably the fall semester of my junior year. So I just turned 20. I'm like a young, I was 17 when I graduated, so my birthday's late. And it's funny, I was taking a tennis class just as part of one of my prereqs, and felt a painful lump under my arm. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. What is that? And I could feel it. It felt like the size of a pea. It was just really small and hard. And it was right before Thanksgiving break. So when I came home, I went to the doctor here, and they were like, it's probably an infection, right? Like, you're 20, what else could it be?
Mhm.
So started an antibiotic, and it just kept getting bigger and big. Like, it grew really quickly. So by the end of that week, so just a few days later, I was in pain all the time.
Mhm.
And drove back to school because you kind of have to go back and take finals. And I went and saw a doctor there in Austin, and he was great. He was super thorough, asked me tons of questions. He sent me for a mammogram, but when I got to the imaging center, they were like, "You're too young. We're not going to do a mammogram. We're going to have you do a sonogram." And so I did a sonogram, and they were like, "Oh, it's a cyst. We'll send you up to surgery. They're going to drain it. You're going to feel so much better." Well, I knew that it was hard as a rock. So I'm like,
Mhm.
cysts are usually soft, right? So they go stick a needle in it, nothing comes out. And I'm like, at this point, I'm like, hey, can I have something for pain? Because I'm dying. I couldn't even wear my backpack anymore. I couldn't sleep on my side. It was just really painful. And so
Mhm.
started hydrocodone because I was like, I have to do something. And took my finals early. My mom was back here frantically calling doctors, like, what is going on? My daughter has this going on. And so they moved my finals up and came back here. And I had an excisional biopsy at Baylor Grapevine. And they knew right away it was some sort of cancerous tumor based on how it looked and the invasion it was doing. And so it's interesting. I didn't really know what was going on after the surgery until they came back with my pathology. So my surgeon was the one that told me about the cancer. It was a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And, my first question was, can't you just take it out? Like, can't you just
Right.
remove it? And they're like, no, you have to go undergo chemotherapy. And I was like, oh my God, at this point, my brain just shut off. I was like,
Yeah.
what is happening?
Mhm.
It was awful. And so they had me set up to see my oncologist the next day. And they did a bone marrow biopsy. I had to undergo CAT scans to get my staging. So they want to stage you to figure out what stage you're in, to determine
Right.
your treatment plan. Um,
And let me ask you a quick question before you continue.
yeah.
Between the time that you first felt this pea-sized lump to when you see the doctor and they say it's cancer, about how long was that?
Probably about a month.
Okay,
So it was pretty quick.
very quick. Yeah.
Um, and by the time I had the biopsy, it was 11 by 7 centimeters, the mass was. So it was
Wow.
pretty large. And they didn't want to completely seal up the incision
Mhm.
because of the nature of what was going on. Um, so they packed it with gauze, and so every day I had to pull gauze out. It was just disgusting. And yeah, so it was, looking back, I'm like, that was just so crazy. Like,
Mhm.
how did I think sometimes you just go into like survival mode and you just do it. Like you don't,
Right.
I don't know. And luckily back then I didn't know much about medical stuff, which is good because now I know all the things and it's like, so I just kind of was like, okay, let's do the thing. But
Mhm.
my staging came back. It was a stage 1. So it hadn't spread outside of it was under my left arm. And the pathology was favorable. So it was a very good kind of lymphoma. So the fact that it grew quickly, it's more amenable to treatment and
Mhm.
higher rate of cure because of the high grade of the cell turnover. And so, in all reality, like it's better than having other things, I guess. And but I underwent 3 rounds of chemotherapy that was pretty intensive. I lost my hair. Um, and then we did some local radiation to the lymph nodes under my left arm and then the clavicle. So it was kind of like this area here.
Mhm.
And so I took that semester off. I stayed home. And I started my treatment in January and I was finished in May. And I went right back to Austin that summer, which,
Ow.
I wanted to get back to my life. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I just want to forget it. Now you can't really forget that because it kind of got stored in me as some trauma that has, come up at different times in my life. But yeah, I mean, so that really completely changed, I think, my trajectory, like
Mhm.
what mattered, what I wanted to do. And that's really kind of what led me to want to do more and go to PA school. And then I ended up working with my oncologist that treated me at
Mhm.
Texas Oncology. So that was great. I was there for 10 years, but of course, during that time is when I started developing autoimmune thyroid issues. And I had a panic attack when I was seeing a patient one day. So of course I go to my general doctor and it's like, oh, your labs are fine. And I'm like, but I am not fine. Like,
Right.
and so that's really kind of what led me to like explore more, like
Mhm.
what is going on. I want to know why I had cancer. I want to know why I have this. Like, what can I do besides just masking my symptoms? What can I do to actually understand what's going on in my body? Right.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of what led me down to more of getting into the whole functional side. Um, and I find that a lot of people get into that with their own personal stories, or someone in their family has something and you're looking for answers, and you learn all these things because one of the first things that I watched that kind of gave me hope, because I think even being 26 years out of cancer, it's not something that ever leaves your mind. Um, but so you're left with kind of a lot of fear around it, a fear of just things happening. Um, and so some of the things that I watched and learned after, when I was getting more into the holistic side of things, really empowered me and gave me a lot of hope. And that's kind of why I was like, people need to understand this. Like, there are things you can do. There are things, because you feel very out of control. You're like, oh, my body developed cancer at 20. Yay. Like,
Right.
what did that, how long am I
Right.
going to live now? Am I going to, you have all these questions. And it's like, if your body can develop something that's serious at such a young age, what else can, is going to happen?
Right. Right.
And so just kind of educating my own self kind of gave me back that that peace of mind and that, okay, yeah, there's a lot that I can do. There's a
Mhm.
lot, and I know you can't control everything in life, but there are a lot of things.
What can you control? And
Yeah.
there are a lot of things that you can control. And
Mhm.
when you were talking, it was making me think about all of the conversations that I've had prior. There's always been that point when the person either received a diagnosis or maybe they didn't know yet, but they knew
Mhm.
something wasn't right. They knew
Mhm.
this is not normal, right? It may be common, but it's
Yeah.
not normal. This is not the way that our bodies are supposed to work, right? This is not
Yeah.
functioning properly. And so they took it upon themselves to begin to ask questions, to begin
Mhm.
to look at information, to begin to read more books or listen to podcasts or talk to friends or whatever it was, but they were starting to get hungry for more
Mhm.
information. And that led them down the path of, yeah, there is more that I can do. What am I, where am I going to start? Right. And so that's like the common thread that I have seen over and over and over
Mhm.
again. Um, so, you mentioned something um, about, working in the oncology area. And what was it like for you to work with oncology patients, having been a patient yourself?
That, I mean, to me, I feel like, and I'm very open. I shared my story a lot with people there. I think having someone that's helping to take care of you that has gone through it,
Hmm.
um, really can help ease their mind. I know what it's like to lose your hair. I know what it's like to sit there and, have a port and be hooked up to chemotherapy and take all the medicine. I know what it's like. And so, because oftentimes people come in, either they don't have a support system or, they don't have any experience to go off of, right? So that's really scary. So for me, I mean, that's one reason why I wanted to get into oncology. I knew from the very beginning of going to PA school, that's what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
Um, and so it was very rewarding for me. And for me, it was almost kind of like a little bit healing for me as well. And of course, it's hard, right? Because not all your patients survive.
Right.
Um, all that stuff, right? You're kind of facing with a lot of difficult situations. But just being able to share that with people and truly being able to say, I understand because I actually do. I think that really was kind of like a gift, for me to be able to do that and be there, and take
Mhm.
care of my patients. And so, when I came to the point where I was deciding to leave oncology, I had a lot of guilt around that. It took me probably about 2 years of wanting to make a change before I actually made the change.
Mm.
And I did. I felt guilty. I felt like I need to be here. This is where I'm supposed to be. But I wasn't happy because as I was learning more about how I really wanted to make an impact with people, and I ran into a lot of barriers when I worked in oncology, because it's like I wanted to be able to do certain things, but there's a lot of you can't, right? Because of
Right.
different the way that system works, certain people there, etc.
Mhm.
But yeah, it took me a while to leave, because I felt like I was letting people down or whatever. But um, in the end, it's like I had to make that move for what I knew was best for me and my family and what I could do going forward.
Mhm.
um, I feel like the impact I've been able to make within the functional medicine world has been a lot greater. Um, and like I said, giving back people the control and the hope, because I see a lot of that hope is lost. Like you're stuck with this, you're not going to get any better. Get your affairs in order in that other world where it's like, hey, but hey, look at all these other things, right?
Yeah.
In that, I think just giving people hope and can really make a difference in their outcome. You know,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's so, so important, especially to as a reminder that our mental health and our physical health are tied. They
Huge.
cannot be severed. And
Mhm.
when you are in a stressful state, it's chronic and you're constantly feeling the anxiety and going in and out of depression and, those types of things, it's going to have an effect on what's going on in your physical body. So when you have hope, when you are feeling peace, when you can experience true joy, and have things to look forward to, it definitely changes the name of the game for you. It changes the
Mhm.
process, it changes your journey, it changes the outcomes for you. I see that as well, in working with clients and just in general when you talk with people, and see what they're going through. It definitely has, it definitely shows. Um, so I'm curious about when you started learning about all the things that functional medicine teaches and all the things that you can do. Where did you personally start, for yourself? What was kind of the first steps for you?
So really, the first thing that I did, it really started when I had kids. Well, maybe before that. So, I mean, I used to think that I ate healthy, right? But it was like cereal and yogurt and sandwiches. I don't know.
Mhm.
So, I really kind of started cleaning up my diet a little bit more. I used to do a lot of running, and so that kind of also forced me to like, okay, I need to eat better, that kind of thing. I've always been into
Mhm.
fitness and all that, but when I had kids, it was like, okay, I started learning more about toxins and
Mhm.
chemicals, and I started really diving into the whole cleaning up my environment as far as like what's going on in the house. You're reading about flame retardant in breast milk, and you're like, oh my gosh, all this stuff, right? Um,
Yeah.
so, I was like, I want something that can clean my house, but I can clean my baby, right? At the same, so it's not like going to harm them. So that's really where it started. But then as I got more into, having my own personal issues again, health wise, um, then I started kind of diving more into the world of the gut. That
Mhm.
has been the coolest thing to learn about the gut microbiome, gut health, all those things, right? So I kind of started learning more about that, started following certain doctors and functional medicine doctors. Went to an amazing conference by Dr. Andrew Weil, he's the head of an integrative medicine program in Arizona. And it was just a kind of a general nutrition and health conference, but it was very holistic, right? They talked about the gut, they talked about chemicals and how to, how to replace certain things and what causes what, and laughter therapy and yoga and meditation. And I was like, this is actually really interesting.
Yeah.
And really, there's a lot of science behind it. It's not just woo woo,
Right.
And so that really kind of kicked it off into high gear. And so, as I was considering leaving oncology, I was able to work with a doctor locally who has his own functional medicine practice. So I worked with him for 2 years and then learned more from the Institute of Functional Medicine and through him. And just that's when I started the health coaching certification with the Integrative Institute of Integrative Nutrition. So that was just kind of reaffirmed all the things I was learning and just took it a little bit step further. So that's really kind of where I started. And so, a lot of it. And then as I was working with the functional doctor, I actually learned more about what was going on with me,
Mhm.
why I had anxiety, like all these different things. Right. And so even got further into cleaning up my diet and my products and certain supplementation. I was low on certain nutrients,
Mhm.
go figure. um, but so that, and as I started feeling better, I was like, and then seeing our patients there get so much better just with some what, not minor, but just some basic things that we were doing there and things that they had been struggling with for years and not getting answers. And then we do these things and go, well, this is why, and this is what you can do, and this is what we're going to do. And they come back a few weeks later and they're like 80% better. And you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
like that
It
is
works. It works.
huge. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the thing, I mean, just so that really was like, this is the way it should be.
Hmm.
This is the way all of it should be. And I know that's a whole nother topic and a whole nother can of worms, but but it's just exciting because you're giving people, again, it's work. It's not
Right.
easy. You can't just take a pill for it. You have to make changes in your life. You have to let go of things. You have to rearrange things. You have to meal prep. You have to do these things, but it's worth it for the outcome that you have, and then the
Mhm.
reduction that you'll have in X, Y, and Z, right? Because your symptoms are your body's way of saying, hey, something's wrong, right? Pay attention to me if you have a headache or something's going on, right? And so that's where I think it's cool that we get to come in and go, okay, let's help you figure out what could be going on and what could be contributing, and let's help you work on those things. So I
Mhm.
kind of think of it as being like a health detective, you're kind of
Yeah.
like, and I love that kind of putting the pieces together for people, because your body works as one. It's not separate. It's not your
Say
brain.
it again for the people in the back that were
Yeah.
not paying attention. Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah.
The body is one. It's one whole system. And, I think there are some benefits to having specialists for
Yes.
sure. Like hands down, yes, absolutely. However, when everything becomes so segmented that we're not looking at the whole picture, then that's when there tends to be a lot more breakdown.
Mhm.
So, I Heather Roth was a guest on the combos, and she also went through cancer. Hers was breast cancer, and one of the things she said was when she started digging in and changing things, her focus was on fighting the cancer. However, her digestive issues started getting better and her stomach wasn't feeling horrible all the time.
Yeah.
So it's just such a beautiful thing when you see these people, these patients, these clients, they're like, oh, I'm struggling with headaches. And that's where their focus is. And you're like, okay, well, we can address that. And you do the testing and you ask the questions and, you offer the supplements or you talk about food or whatever it is. And their headaches start to get better. But then they're like, well, that pain in my knee that I thought was just because I'm old, also is going away. Like it's 50% better. And you're like, yeah, because your head and your knee are part of the same body.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Hmm.
so cool. So cool. And I just, I'm looking at your face and you are just beaming, when you're talking about the things that you've seen happen with patients. I can tell that it's something that you really love and you enjoy and you puts a little pep in your step. And I think for so many who are in this field, especially, they that's how they that's how they feel, right? That's how we feel when we see somebody, even if it's just a small improvement. It's
Hmm.
exciting because we
Yeah.
know there's more to come.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm curious about how you're doing now. What's your health like? Whether that be, you said 26 years ago. So, you've come a long way from your original cancer diagnosis. But even with the thyroid and other things that you discovered, how are things going for you now?
Yeah, so things are good. I mean, of course, there's kind of periods of time where, there's ups and downs, but
Mhm.
it's not, I mean, I've been able to really get, the antibodies that are associated with Hashimoto's, those have been normal
Mhm.
for quite some time. So I just check usually about every 6 months, I check some certain things in the, in my blood and things like that. And I'm always kind of doing different tests on myself, like a stool test or whatever, just to see like what else I can do.
Mhm.
But overall, I mean, I know when the pandemic hit, that kind of threw a little bit of a wrench in things. I think that's kind of when a lot of my stored trauma from the cancer came back. So then I
Mhm.
did undergo some EMDR therapy. So I'm always kind of, trying different things for myself, and then also to kind of report to other people like, hey, this can really benefit you.
Mhm.
So really since that time, things have been, going really well. You know, I'm sleeping good. I try to, maintain my fitness routine and, of course, my water and all these different things, right? And, we cook mostly our food at home. And but yeah, so, right now, I mean, things are really good. I feel good. Can't really complain about, about anything. So just kind of, kind of take it one step at a time. And as I'm getting older, I know things might change because I know hormones will change and things like that. But I definitely am someone that, will always look to do things naturally before, going to any medication if I have to.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I've been doing really, really well. I get all my screenings. I actually probably need to schedule a colonoscopy here soon. So that's on my to-do list. But yeah, I mean, I really, really can't complain. So
Mhm.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic that you have, remained healthy and have found a variety of different ways. As you said, it's not just one thing, it's multiple things that are doable,
Mhm.
whether that be nutrition, movement, stress, sleep, all the things, relationships,
Yeah.
all of these varieties of things. So, and once you get on that path, staying consistent is probably the most beneficial, but oftentimes the most challenging for people as well. What would you say has been the thing that's helped you stay consistent?
Hmm. Oh my goodness. Well, I think, there's a few things I think that help. I mean, number one, having a routine, right?
Mhm.
So kind of sticking to your same sleep wake schedule, kind of having a plan.
Mhm.
That's really helpful. And luckily my husband's really great as far as helping with cooking and meal planning and all that stuff. So we're both on the same page about
Yes.
health and food, and that really makes a difference. And so I think that's one thing. And then honestly, just my desire to be healthy for my kids and, to show them too, to lead by example. Um, just I think those things, not a fear of getting an illness, but just kind of just having that mindset of doing these things is going to help me in the long run,
Mhm.
and of course, I have other, you know, things that help me stay accountable. Like I have a habit tracker and all these other things, right? That kind of,
Mhm.
on your phone, there's different apps and things like that. And, just kind of staying, around people too that are also in the same position as far as like wanting to take care of their health, So,
Yeah.
because I know that some people, you know, that aren't on your same path or health journey, if you're around them, it's not, you can kind of get swayed different ways, but just trying to stay within kind of a positive environment and
Mhm.
good relationships and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, because it's, it can be hard. Food is probably the hardest thing. Because there are so many temptations and things like that. But just getting in that routine of this is what I do. I go to the store every week. We meal plan every week. We make a schedule of what we're gonna have, and just kind of keeping that routine consistent, can be very helpful. So
Yeah.
mhm.
So building a routine, having a plan, being
Having
on the same page with the people, especially in your
support.
home, but certainly in your circle
Yeah.
as well is very helpful to staying on your path.
Mhm.
Yeah. And the positivity aspect as well. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, Allison, again, I cannot thank you enough for being with me today, sharing your story with everybody. I believe that somebody out there, maybe many somebody's out there, are really going to take away some good nuggets and be encouraged by what they hear. For anyone who maybe wants to hear more, they want to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
So, of course, lots of places on social media, but I do have a website. It's just my name, so AllisonWinzrich.com. And then you can contact me through there. And then Instagram, I'm just at Allison Winzrich, same with Facebook. And my email is the same, AllisonWinzrich@gmail.com. So, all those different places you can find me. I'm usually on some of those things at certain points of the day. So yeah, I would love to connect with anyone that has questions or anything like that going on. So,
Yeah, and I will definitely drop all your information in the description so folks can find it there. And for all of you that are joining us, let us know what you think about this conversation. Drop some comments and like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the combos. And until next time, I'll see you later. Bye.